Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. The D-Day dawns as top US and Russian diplomats to meet in Saudi Arabia's capital Riyadh for talks primarily focused on resetting thorny ties. Discussion to include ways to end Russia-Ukraine conflict. European leaders in Paris emergency huddle, ready to provide Ukraine security guarantees, warn against ceasefire without peace deal. In a rare gesture, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi receives Amir of Qatar at Delhi airport to hold bilateral talks on trade, investment and energy, among others. Over 30 people killed and 15 others injured after a bus plunges into a ravine in southern Bolivia. The United States and Russia's top delegates will meet in Saudi Arabia today. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and President Vladimir Putin's foreign policy advisor Yuri Yushakov will hold bilateral talks with US officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff in Riyadh. The US official said the meeting was a step to determine if the Russians are serious about talks towards peace. While ahead of the much-awaited meeting, Yuri Yushakov said the talks on Ukraine will be strictly bilateral. He added that he is in Riyadh to negotiate with American colleagues and there can be no trilateral talks.
How's your mood before talks? What is an ideal result?
We'll see. The main thing is to start a real normalization of relation between us and Washington.
Is there any chance that tensions would decrease after talks?
Let's wait. There are serious people. We have also arrived with serious approach.
The talks could lay the ground for a potential meeting between Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said that Riyadh talks should actively involve Ukraine and the European Union. He said the talks open a window of opportunity, but it must be remembered that this cannot be a false closure.
A window of opportunity opens because the United States administration is laying the foundations so that conversations that lead to peace start. Well, we welcome those talks, but we need to remember that this can't be a false closure. We can't repeat the mistakes of the past.
While the European leaders met in Paris on Monday for emergency talks as they scramble for a response to Trump's plan to open negotiations with Putin for an end to the conflict, the leaders agreed it would be dangerous to conclude a Ukraine ceasefire without a peace agreement at the same time. They, however, expressed that they were ready to provide security guarantees to Ukraine depending on the level of American support. The leaders also stressed that all European nations must boost their support for Ukraine while ramping up defense spending at home to protect themselves against Russia.
A meeting like today is not for decision making. We have the European Council, we have NATO and other arenas to take decisions. So was more like an informal meeting. I think all of us are aware that we need to support Ukraine more and stronger than we are today. I'm glad that all Nordic countries and Baltic countries are so supportive, but all Europeans have to step up when it comes to Ukraine and at the same time step up when it comes to defense spending at home, because Russia is threatening all Europe now, unfortunately.
Meanwhile, Zelensky has asserted that Ukraine will not recognize a peace deal negotiated by the US and Russia if it is not involved in the talks. Israel has expressed support for the US proposal to take control of Gaza and displace its Palestinian residents as Washington's top diplomat held talks in Saudi Arabia. On his visit to Saudi Arabia, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio held discussions with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as part of a broader push for the plan, which envisions resetting Gaza's over 2 million residents in other countries. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed his commitment to the plan, stating that it would pave the way for a new Gaza without Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said a special agency would be established for the voluntary departure of Gazans. Arab states, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Jordan, are expected to discuss alternatives in a regional summit later this week. Egypt has reiterated its commitment to a two-state solution, which would establish an independent Palestinian state. King Abdullah II on Monday reiterated Jordan's stance on the Palestinian cause, rejecting any form of displacement, resettlement or the establishment of an alternative homeland.
Washington.
Unfortunately, what they don't understand or they can't understand. Let me reiterate our firm position: no to displacement in Gaza and the West Bank, and the reconstruction of Gaza without displacement. I stress the importance of working to reduce the escalation in the West Bank, and that a just and comprehensive peace based on the two-state solution is the only way to achieve stability in the region.
The families of the hostages still in Gaza on Monday marked 500 days of their captivity, holding pictures of their loved ones and banners reading "Home Now." Israel's Security Cabinet convened on Monday evening to discuss Phase 2 of the ceasefire. The ceasefire's second phase is meant to usher in negotiations to return the remaining living hostages. Thousands of Israelis took to the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv on Monday to demand the release of 73 hostages still held in Gaza, 500 days after they were kidnapped in Hamas's October 7th attack. 5 foreign hostages are among those still held captive.
It's been already 500 days that hostages are being held in Gaza. We come here every week in order to support the families, in order to show that we are with them and they have someone to count on to keep pushing and pressing until we have all hostages back.
Today is about 500 days since they were kidnapped to the tunnels of Hamas. There are here more than 10,000 Israelis fighting for that in front of the house of Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem, symbolically the name of the street named Gaza. And we will not stop until the last hostage is back home.
2 days after he was released from Hamas's captivity, released hostage Ayhan sat in front of a camera on Monday to deliver one message: "Bring me my brother back." Argentine-born Ayhan, 46 years of age, was one of 3 hostages released from Gaza on Saturday. Israeli troops had started withdrawing on Monday from some border villages of Lebanon after Israel's military said it would remain in 5 strategic points hours before a ceasefire deadline to pull out. Under a truce brokered by Washington in November, Israeli troops were granted 60 days to withdraw from southern Lebanon, where they had waged a ground offensive against fighters from Iran-backed Hezbollah since early October. That deadline was later extended to February 18th, but Israel's military requested that it keeps troops in 5 posts in southern Lebanon. Lebanon's government said the state should be the sole bearer of arms and vowed to liberate all Lebanese territory. Hezbollah was the only Lebanese armed group that refused to surrender its weapons to the state following the 1975 to 1990 civil war. In Canada, a Delta Airlines jet with 80 people on board crash-landed on Monday at the Toronto airport. The plane flipped upside down upon landing amid windy weather following a snowstorm. The Endeavour Air flight with 76 passengers and 4 crew members was landing in the afternoon in Canada's biggest metropolis, having flown from Minneapolis in the U.S. state of Minnesota. 17 injured passengers were taken to the hospital. Canadian authorities said they would investigate the cause of the crash, which is not yet known.
The matter around this event that happened at approximately 2:30 p.m. is Delta Airlines Flight 4819 from Minneapolis to Toronto, operated by subsidiary Endeavour Air, was involved in a single aircraft accident upon landing at Toronto Pearson. The plane was carrying 4 crew and 76 passengers, among them 22 Canadians. The other passengers were multinational. Airport emergency workers mounted a textbook response, reaching the site within minutes and quickly evacuating the passengers. Again, there were no fatalities. 17 injured passengers were quickly taken to local area hospitals. At this time, we do not know of any of those passengers having critical injuries.
The Toronto airport was shut down for more than 2 hours before departures and arrivals resumed. This led to ground delays and diversions to other airports, including Montreal Trudeau International Airport, which said it was preparing to receive several diverted flights that might cause further delays. The crash in Canada followed other recent crashes in North America. An Army helicopter collided with a passenger jet in Washington, killing 67 people, while at least 7 people died when a medical transport plane crashed in Philadelphia and 10 were killed in a passenger plane crash in Alaska. Thousands of people protested in Washington, D.C. to voice their opposition to the sweeping changes being implemented in federal agencies since Donald Trump's presidency began in January. Protesters contend that Musk and DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, have been given too much power and urged Congress to intervene and push back on decisions Musk and Trump have made. Trump put Elon Musk in charge of rooting out wasteful spending as part of a dramatic overhaul of government, which included thousands of job cuts. Protesters expressed rage on the mass layoffs and budget cuts impacting agencies such as EPA, Department of Education and the IRS. Elon Musk's agency is at the center of a controversy as it cancelled a $21 million US dollars India voter fund along with several other countries. BJP and some other leaders have dubbed it as the biggest scam in human history, claiming it exposes foreign interference in democratic process.
A major political controversy has erupted after reports surfaced that the United States, through its foreign aid agency USAID, allocated $21 million in 2012 to boost voter turnout in India. The BJP has launched a scathing attack on the Congress, accusing it of enabling foreign influence in India's electoral process. Economist Sanjeev Sanyal called it the biggest scam in human history, questioning the whereabouts of millions of dollars reportedly funneled into political initiatives across South Asia. $21 million for voter turnout in India, $29 million for Bangladesh's political landscape, and $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal.
We have had now suspicions about what has been happening for some time, which is the reason that the Indian government in recent years has been very strict about FCRA. Many of you may have even complained about it, but the fact is that this was the reason we were doing it. Similarly, we have evicted USAID from collecting our Indian medical data. So if somebody else controls the data, they can manipulate me in any which way they do. And they were not just doing it for medical data. The social policies in this country were being manipulated. They were introducing all kinds of agendas about how, for example, how to treat women, the rules and regulations relating to that. All kinds of things were being done, which are absolutely shocking. But you can now, I hope, understand why we were so paranoid about this whole thing.
The report also triggered strong reactions from BJP leaders. MP Sudhanshu Trivedi put the Congress squarely in the dock.
आज हम साफ-साफ पूछना चाहते हैं, ये कौन सी शक्तियां हैं जो भारत में इस प्रकार चुनावी प्रक्रिया को प्रभावित करने, परिवर्तित करने या उसके अंदर कोई समस्या उत्पन्न करने के हेतु से आर्थिक अनुदान पाती हुई दिखाई पड़ रही थीं, ये बहुत गहरा संदेह हमारे मन में उत्पन्न होता है.
Adding to the controversy, BJP leader Amit Malviya shared a 2012 report detailing a memorandum of understanding between the Election Commission of India and the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, funded by USAID. Malviya accused the American investor George Soros of having significant influence over India's electoral process, drawing links between him and the Congress-led UPA government. He further alleged that the UPA systematically allowed anti-India forces to infiltrate national institutions, weakening the country from within. Senior advocate Mahesh Jethmalani has now called for a full-scale investigation into the alleged US interference. He urged Indian agencies to seize USAID's account in the country and trace the money trail, warning that foreign influence could be deeper than expected. These developments follow after US President Donald Trump appointed tech entrepreneur Elon Musk last month as the head of newly established Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. The department tasked with reducing wasteful expenditure said that it had cancelled millions in foreign aid, including the $21 million allegedly earmarked for India's voter turnout initiative. Tripti Tripathi's report for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Mexico warns of taking legal action against Google. Germany to hold snap national election on February 23rd. Japan's government approves new targets to cut the country's greenhouse gas emissions through 2040.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Under mounting pressure from US President Donald Trump to tackle drug trafficking, Mexico announced the seizure of 200 kilos of methamphetamine in a cartel heartland. Now, the discovery was made during a weekend operation to dismantle illegal drug laboratories in the northwestern state of Sinaloa. Also, the value of the drugs seized was nearly $40 million. It said, adding that more than 3,170 gallons of the chemical precursors used to make methamphetamine were also confiscated. Now, the Latin American nation has announced a series of major drug discoveries in recent weeks in an apparent attempt to highlight increased efforts to combat drug smuggling. Trump has cited illegal flows of the deadly opioid fentanyl as one of the reasons for a threatened 25% tariff on Mexican goods. He put the trade levies on hold for a month until early March after Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to deploy 10,000 more soldiers to the country's shared border to tackle smuggling. Mexico has warned it will take legal action against Google if the tech giant continues to label the entire Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. President Claudia Sheinbaum said her government had written again to the U.S. company, arguing that President Donald Trump's executive order on the subject only applies to the part of the continental shelf belonging to the U.S. The letter informs Google that under no circumstances does Mexico accept the renaming of any geographic area that includes part of its national territory and that is under its jurisdiction. Sheinbaum said the renaming is incorrect, adding that Trump's decree only changed the name within its own continental shelf, which extends 22 nautical miles from the U.S. coast, not the entire Gulf. Germany will hold a snap national election on February 23rd, following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-way coalition. Let's take a look at how Germany is gearing up for the polls.
This is Germany, a country in Central Europe. It goes to the polls on February the 23rd. The snap national election is being held following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-way coalition. An online tool has been developed to help Germans with their voting preferences. The Wahlomat, in English Electionomat, provides a survey of various topics for German voters to find out which parties best fit their political opinions.
Many of my friends don't even know who they want to vote for yet, and like myself, I don't quite know what I want to choose either. I would like to help them with the Electionomat and hope that it will make it much easier for them to make their decisions.
For all those voters who are eager to vote fast, early voting is available by submitting postal election forms in person. Robert Habeck, Germany's economy minister, and the Green Party's candidate for Chancellor cast an early vote in the country's general election in Flensburg on February 7.
Ich habe jetzt schon von meinem Wahlrecht Gebrauch gemacht, was daran liegt, dass ich ja noch weiter.
I have already exercised my right to vote, which is because I still have to campaign and can't be in Flensburg myself on 23rd.
Postal voting has been an option in Germany since 1957 election, when less than 5% opted for it. During the 2021 elections at the height of the COVID pandemic, the number rose to almost 50%, from around 28% in the 2017 election.
I actually vote by post regularly, but this year is particularly important for me because I'm going on a holiday, which I've been planning for a long time and won't be back until after the election. That is why I'm glad that I was able to vote here at the postal voting center.
For many young Germans, voting will be a first-time experience.
I think it's quite difficult to decide. It's a very polarized debate at the moment, and many people don't know how to position themselves.
Germany has two centrist Big Tent parties, Scholz's center-left Social Democrats, and the opposition Conservatives, an alliance of the Christian Democrats and the Bavarian sister party, the Christian Social Union. Both have lost support in recent years, with smaller parties such as the Greens and the far-right Alternative for Germany gaining ground. The SPD Conservatives, Greens and AfD are all fielding candidates for Chancellor. Also running are the pro-market Free Democrats and the leftist Sahara Wagenknecht Alliance, who are all at risk of missing the 5% threshold to make it into parliament, according to opinion polls. This election is taking place against a backdrop of a series of deadly attacks, which have heightened pressure on the mainstream parties to reform immigration and asylum rules. Who will be the next chancellor, and will the issues be resolved? This remains to be seen. Bureau Report, DD India.
With less than a week before the vote, the main candidates for Chancellor answered questions by audience members on live television. It was the first time in this election campaign that these four politicians came together in one live TV event. The debate tackled the topics of immigration, the economy, Ukraine and defense, housing and pensions. Current German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, whose party is third in the current polls, reiterated the need for controlled migration alongside Germany being a country open to offering protection to refugees. Conservative Party leader Friedrich Merz, currently leading in the polls with his party, said that he was in favor of reducing the state's social benefit to secure the minimum substance level to zero for specific cases. Leader of the far-right Alternative for Germany, Alice Weidel, said that the party was not calling for a withdrawal from the European Union, but rather for a reduction of its competencies. Current Minister for Economy Robert Habeck and candidate for the Green Party talked about Tesla CEO Elon Musk and US President Donald Trump. Let's turn focus to other updates. The UN appealed for $6 billion to provide desperately needed aid to people in war-ravaged Sudan as the African country faced an emergency of shocking propositions. The aim is to provide assistance to nearly 26 million people this year, the United Nations Humanitarian Agency and Refugee Agency said in a joint appeal. Since April 2023, Sudan has been locked in a brutal conflict between Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and his former deputy Mohammed Hamdan Daglo, who leads the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The UN agency said the civil war has displaced 12 million people, including around 3.5 million who have fled the country. At the same time, nearly two-thirds of Sudan's population needs emergency aid as swathes of the nation face famine conditions. The Democratic Republic of Congo on Monday criticized the inaction of the UN Security Council in the wake of the M23 armed group seizing the city of Bukavu. Congolese United Nations Ambassador Zenon Mukongo submitted a letter to the Security Council denouncing its inability to rally in support of the DRC following the attack on the capital of South Kivu province in the country's east. His letter called for an emergency meeting of the Security Council in response to the development, urging the body to act decisively and immediately. A draft resolution spearheaded by France has been in the work since late January, with the latest version demanding a halt of M23's advancement and the withdrawal of Rwandan troops without preconditions. It also urges the DRC and Rwanda to resume diplomatic talks and floats the idea of sanctioning M23 leadership and those providing external support to the M23 group. Argentina President Javier Milei is facing impeachment threats from opposition lawmakers for endorsing a cryptocurrency which crashed, losing billions of dollars in value within hours. Argentina's opposition claims Milei was a participant in crypto scandal. President Milei recommended the crypto coin Libra, purportedly intending to support small businesses. The cryptocurrency shot prediction was nearly $5 a piece, but plummeted to under $1 just a few hours later. The president has denied the outcome. Argentina's Federal Prosecutor's Office will examine whether Milei engaged in a fraud or criminal association or was in breach of his duties when he praised the Libra cryptocurrency on social media by Friday evening. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will meet US President Donald Trump in Washington next week to discuss a wide range of issues. Starmer is seeking to foster ties with Trump in a delicate balancing act of maintaining good relations with both the new US administration and the European Union, which Britain left 5 years ago. He's also hoping the UK can act as a bridge between Europe and the United States over the conflict in Ukraine, stressing that Britain could have a unique role in helping to secure any ceasefire in Ukraine. The encounter will be first face-to-face talks between the two leaders since Trump started his second term at the White House in January. Cook Islands Prime Minister Mark Brown said that he would release soon the full details of a comprehensive strategic partnership deal between China and his country, which has raised concerns in New Zealand, with which it has constitutional ties. New Zealand has said that its concerns about Brown's visit to China stems from not having seen the agreements that he plans to sign ahead of the trip, even though it asked to review them. China and Cook Islands last week signed several bilateral cooperation documents over economy, environment, culture and other sectors in the northeastern Chinese city of Harbin. The Cook Islands, a self-governing Pacific country halfway between New Zealand and Hawaii, can interact with the international community as an independent state. But New Zealand provides budget support and commits to defend the island nation whose people are New Zealand citizens. The UN nuclear watchdog chief arrives in Japan for a trip that will include his first visit to storage facilities for soil contaminated in the 2011 Fukushima disaster. It is the fifth official visit to the country by Rafael Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency. The organization is monitoring the decades-long process to decommission the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, which went into meltdown after being hit by a tsunami in the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. Grossi will tour the site on Wednesday and will also be shown the contaminated soil that the government is currently discussing how to handle. A bus crash in Bolivia killed at least 30 people, 10 adults and 4 children had been hospitalized, with several in intensive care. The driver of the bus likely lost control of the vehicle, causing it to drop nearly 2,626 feet off a precipice in the southwestern municipality of Yocala. The mountainous route, known for its sharp turns and narrow paths, is frequently cited as one of the most dangerous in the country. Speeding and poor vehicle maintenance have been linked to many accidents in the area. Investigation is underway. Let's get to updates on Pope Francis' health condition now. Pope's condition is stable now after doctors changed treatment for Pontiff's respiratory tract infection to tackle a complex clinical situation. The Vatican on Monday said the Pontiff had a polymicrobial infection of his respiratory tract, which has required a change in the treatment. A later update added that the Pope was proceeding with the prescribed treatment in a stable condition and did not have a fever. He also undertook some work and reading while in hospital on Monday. The Vatican said Pope will remain in hospital for as long as necessary. The 88-year-old pontiff has been suffering from a respiratory infection for more than a week and was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on Friday. Japan's government approved new targets to cut the country's greenhouse gas emissions through 2040, alongside a revised energy plan and an updated industrial policy for the same period. The measures, which seek to bolster long-term policy stability for businesses, focus on promoting decarbonization, ensuring a stable energy supply, and strengthening industrial capacity to drive economic growth. Under the new climate policy, Japan aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 60% from 2013 levels by 2035 and by 73% by 2040, extending its 2030 goal of a 46% cut. Japanese utilities have struggled to restart nuclear reactors since the 2011 Fukushima disaster, limiting nuclear power to just 8.5% of Japan's electricity supply in 2023. The new energy plan removes the previous goal of minimizing reliance on nuclear and calls for building next-generation reactors. At least 11 people have died as torrential downpours over the weekend drenched parts of the southeastern U.S., submerging roads and houses. Hundreds of people have been stranded. Kentucky, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia and North Carolina were under some type of storm-related alert over the weekend. Almost all of the states also suffered catastrophic damage in September from Hurricane Helene. The rapid influx of rain caused over the river levels to rise quickly and trapped vehicles in feet of water. Images posted online showed this. Hundreds of roads were closed. Also, thousands of homes ended up without power. The heat wave struck Rio de Janeiro less than 2 weeks before the world-famous festival, impacting construction workers currently assembling the festival's installations and raising concerns about the smooth running of the events. Rio de Janeiro reached a record heat level of 44 degrees Celsius on Monday, triggering the Heat 4 alert for the first time. The Heat 4 alert is activated when temperatures between 40 degrees and 44 degrees are expected to persist for at least 3 days. City officials recommended that residents avoid direct sun exposure and implemented protocols for hydration and emergency care. The intense heat has been compared to desert-like conditions affecting daily life and work, with residents describing it as unbearable. A quick break ahead. You're watching DD India News Hour. Stay with us.
Timeless, boundless, and infinite. The essence of faith, the soul of Sanatan culture. From the sacred confluence of Prayag, where divinity descends to earth. Witness the grandeur, the devotion, the magic. World's largest cultural and spiritual gathering, with over 450 million devotees expected to attend. Maha Kumbh, India's greatest festival of faith. Exclusively on DD India.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who arrived in New Delhi on Monday on a 2-day visit to India, will meet President Draupadi Murmu and hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Extending a rare gesture of hospitality, Prime Minister Modi went to the airport to receive the Emir of Qatar, who arrived in Delhi in the evening. Both Prime Minister Modi and Amir are expected to discuss India-Qatar ties related to trade, investment, energy and technology at their meeting. The Amir, who is on his second state visit to India after March 2015, will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. India and Qatar have deep-rooted historical ties of friendship, trust and mutual respect. In the recent years, the ties between the two countries, including in the areas of trade, investment, energy, technology, culture and people-to-people relations, have continued to strengthen. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, hours after his arrival in Delhi, and said he is confident that the visiting leader's talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday will deepen close bonds of friendship. The Union Minister also shared some photographs of his meeting with the Amir of Qatar on social media platform X, praising the Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani's guidance on advancing cooperation in many domains. All right, DD India correspondent Jessica Taneja joins us from New Delhi. Jessica, good morning. We've told about the arrival of the visiting dignitary to India and how he was received by the Prime Minister in a rare gesture of hospitality. Get us more, how do we expect the talks to unfold? The visiting dignitary, the Amir of Qatar, will be holding talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He will also be meeting President Draupadi Murmu. Get us more, what does the day hold for him today?
Well, that's correct. The welcome for the Amir of Qatar, the plan has pretty much been laid out by you in that report earlier, Preeti. He will be accorded a ceremonial welcome in New Delhi. And you saw the gesture of the Prime Minister receiving them at the airport. Certainly goes on to show that how important Qatar is, especially when it comes to India's growing relationship with countries in West Asia, not just with the traditional allies of United Arab Emirates, and of course to an extent Saudi Arabia as well. But now Qatar, we've seen quite a lot of engagements in the last 1 year. If you'd recall, the Prime Minister had visited Qatar in February 2024, and that was right after 8 naval officers were released by Qatar. Another, a good diplomatic effort made on the part of India to release its nationals and ensure their safety back home. So of course, a lot of the relationship between the two has been growing beyond the sectors of energy, which we've seen the cooperation in the recent past. If you know, Qatar is an important partner when it comes to India's LPG and LNG supply. Nearly 40% of the imports come from Qatar. So it's an important partner when it comes to energy requirements of India. But the trade between the two has been growing steadily. It was 18.5 billion approximately last year, with India's exports also growing to an extent when it comes to certain sectors. And with the imports that we're witnessing from Qatar, dominantly energy imports, we will see more diversification as well. And in the recent past, there have been quite a lot of exchanges and joint task forces to see on how trade and investment needs to be enhanced between the two countries. So a lot has been done in terms of ensuring a relationship with Qatar is on a level that is enhanced and moving forward, especially when we also know that Qatar is crucial to mediations in the efforts that are made to ensure a ceasefire deal for Gaza. So, of course, a key player there as well. And India's continued engagement goes on to show that this relationship and the momentum would continue in the coming future.
All right, Jessica, you've told us about how the relationship is important and how it has evolved over the years. But then we've told our viewers that trade, energy and other areas would be taken up when the leaders of both the countries meet today for discussions. Get us more as to what is the scope of further strengthening the relationship and, where does the relationship particularly stand when we talk of trade and how that is to be taken forward?
As I mentioned to you a short while ago, the trade between the two countries has almost reached $18 billion. And of course, India's exports are nearly growing each year. And Qatar being an important destination, of course, after South Korea and China, and as well as the United Arab Emirates, as we've seen trade grow in the recent past, especially when it comes to crucial components such as steel, aluminium, and even rice. So, of course, see an increase and a rise in exports there, but also talking about other initiatives that the two leaders could take up. For example, financial tech, India's big push in the digital sector, talking about artificial intelligence as well. There are various sectors of cooperation that could see enhancements. So we'll wait for those readouts throughout the day as to what the two leaders discuss. But what we do understand is that the two countries have set up joint task forces in the recent past, especially the last 1 year. There have been foreign office consultations as well, almost 5 in so time that the two leaders have set up. So in terms of trade and diversifying their relationship beyond the energy sectors. I was just pointing out earlier, the two leaders could see momentum and discussions in those key areas as well, Preeti.
All right, Jessica, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. So that was our correspondent Jessica Tanejo telling us what is to be expected when the visiting dignitary, the Amir of Qatar, meets the Indian leadership today. We'll keep you updated. And now we turn focus to Maha Kumbh, the largest gathering of humans on the planet. The Maha Kumbh 2025 in Prayagraj has drawn an overwhelming number of devotees to the sacred Triveni Sangam, the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and the mystical Saraswati rivers. Displaying unwavering faith and devotion, more than 54 crore pilgrims have already taken the holy dip, seeking spiritual purification and blessings. Even after the completion of the three main Amrit Snans, that is Makar Sankranti, Mauni Amavasya and Basant Panchami, the enthusiasm of pilgrims remains undiminished. People from across India and the world continue to arrive daily, making Maha Kumbh a global spiritual spectacle. The Maha Kumbh 2025 is not just a religious gathering, but a reflection of the rich spiritual heritage and enduring faith of millions. As the sacred waters of the Triveni Sangam witness history, the event continues to inspire devotion, unity, and cultural pride. A three-day international bird festival was held to promote environmental conservation and biodiversity at Maha Kumbh 2025. The main objective of this event is to make environmental lovers, ornithologists and devotees aware of rare species of birds and raise awareness towards their conservation. Thousands of migratory birds from more than 10 countries including Siberia, Mongolia, Afghanistan have reached the banks of Ganga Yamuna. This international bird festival is a unique amalgamation of Indian culture, love for nature and scientific outlook, which will become an inspiration for environmental conservation in the future. Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar will be replacing India's Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar, who took charge as the CEC in May 2022 and will be retiring today. Gyanesh Kumar has been appointed as the Chief Election Commissioner by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led Selection Committee on Monday, effective from February 19th. Gyanesh Kumar is the first CEC to be appointed under the new law on the appointment of the members of the Election Commission. Kumar, who will stay in post till January 26, 2029, will altogether steer the Commission through 20 assembly elections, elections for President and Vice President in 2027, and preparations for the 2029 Lok Sabha election. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana marks its 9th-year anniversary, celebrating close to a decade of empowering the Indian farmers. Launched in 2016 by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the scheme offers a comprehensive shield against crop losses caused by unpredictable natural hazards. Also, this protection not only stabilizes farmers' income, but also encourages them to adopt innovative practices. Crop insurance is an important risk mitigation tool to protect farmers from natural calamities. It aims at providing financial support to farmers suffering from crop damage or crop loss arising out of natural calamities like hailstorm, drought, floods, cyclones, heavy and unseasonal rains, attack of disease and pests, etc. Bastar district in the central Indian state of Chhattisgarh was once gripped by fear because of Naxal insurgents. But now it is scripting a new chapter of transformation. The combined strategies of the central and state government over decades, along with intensified operations by security forces, have shaken the foundations of Naxalism there. DD India Somesh Patel reports on this.
Security forces in Bastar are relentlessly striking against Naxal insurgents. As a result, in 2024 and the early months of 2025, they have achieved significant success. According to data, in the past 13 months, 305 Naxals have been killed, 1,177 have been arrested, and 985 have surrendered. In Chhattisgarh, within the first 40 days of this year alone, 87 Naxals have been eliminated in encounters, with 71 of them falling in the Bastar region. India's Home Minister Amit Shah has also stated that Naxalism in Chhattisgarh will be completely eradicated by March 31st, 2026.
नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने तय किया है कि इस नक्सलवाद को और नक्सलवाद के विचार को दोनों को मूल समेत हम इस देश से उखाड़कर फेंक देंगे और शांति को प्रस्तावित करेंगे। पूरे देश में नक्सलवाद को समाप्त करने में नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार को सफलता मिली है और मैं आपके प्रदेश में कहकर आया हूं 31/3/2026 के दिन को नक्सलवाद को इस देश से आखिरी सलाम करने का समय सुनिश्चित कर दिया गया है।
The continuous operations by security forces have severely weakened Naxal organizations. Many top Naxal leaders have either been killed or have surrendered. Bastar IG Sundar Raj P has said, "We have been conducting sustained operations in Naxal-affected areas. Peace is now being restored."
In order to bring an end to left-wing extremism in Bastar region, we are implementing a comprehensive action plan. In the recent months, special forces like DRG, STF, Bastar Fighters, Cobra, CRPF, BSF, ITBP, SSB, CF and other local forces have conducted effective operations against the banned and illegal Maoist outfit. During these operations, the last 14 months we have recovered more than 300 Naxal dead bodies along with huge quantity of graded weapons like.
With the decline of Naxalism in Bastar, a new wave of development is emerging. The efforts of the government and security forces will continue, ensuring that this region moves towards complete peace and prosperity.
Bastar, once considered a stronghold of Naxalism, is now moving towards transformation. The continuous elimination a Naxal militant is a result of joint plan by the central and state government, along with all-out operation with secretary force. Somesh Patel, DD India, Chhattisgarh.
Indian News Hour, we're heading for a short break, but after the break, dollar wobbled near 2-month lows on Tuesday as traders weighed tariff worries. Indian men's cricket team hold practice session in Dubai ahead of Champions Trophy starting Wednesday. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. India's export performance is showcasing impressive growth and resilience. In January 2025, the country's total exports surged to $74.97 billion, marking a significant increase from the previous year. With strong growth across key sectors such as electronics, pharmaceuticals and gems and jewelry, India's export story is becoming a symbol of optimism. In the next report, we take a closer look at remarkable progress and what it means for India's position on the global trade map.
India's export story is one of growth, resilience and optimism. January 2025 saw a significant leap in the country's trade data. Total exports for January 2025 stood at an impressive $74.97 billion, clocking an increase from $69.72 billion in January 2024. Overall, April 2024 to January 2025 total exports up by 7.21%, totaling $682.59 billion, thus an increase of $46 billion. With an average monthly export of $70 to $75 billion, India's exports will exceed $800 billion in 2025-2026. The surge was led by a remarkable jump in electronics, pharmaceuticals and gems and jewelry exports. Incredible growth was seen in electronics exports, which skyrocketed by an astounding 79%. India's manufacturing capabilities in this sector are becoming globally competitive thanks to the government's production-linked incentive scheme, driving more investment and innovation. Pharmaceuticals also had a strong showing, with exports climbing up by 21.46%, reaffirming India's role as the pharmacy of the world and a leading exporter of affordable medicines. Even amidst global challenges, gems and jewellery exports saw a 15.9% increase, proving India's resilience in the luxury goods market. With strong exports across sectors and growing global confidence, India is not just expanding its markets, but positioning itself as a major player on the world stage. From electronics to pharmaceuticals and luxury goods, India's export success story continues to unfold. The nation's economic future looks brighter than ever. Bureau Report, DD India.
The dollar wobbled near 2-month lows on Tuesday as traders weighed tariff worries and the path to US rate cuts, while the Australian dollar managed to stay close to its highest level in 2 months, even as markets bet on an imminent rate cut. The yen held on to its recent gains as strong growth data bolstered odds of the Bank of Japan raising interest rates again this year, with July seen as a live meeting. The Australian dollar eased 0.17% on the day, but still close to the 2-month high of $0.634. It touched on Monday ahead of the policy decision from the Reserve Bank of Australia, with markets pricing in a 25 basis points rate cut. Asian shares and the dollar steadied on Tuesday, as the traders waited on a rate cut in Australia and company earnings in China, while European shares marked record highs on the prospect of ramping up defense spending to back up any Ukraine peace deal. And now we talk of sports. With an eye on the Champions Trophy set to start from Wednesday, the Indian men's cricket team was seen sweating it out in the practice session in Dubai on Monday. Reigning 2020 World Champions India have made the finals of the last 3 ICC events, and Rohit Sharma's team signals their fine form by winning 7 of the 8 limited overs matches against England. Runners-up in the 2023 ODI World Cup on home soil, India boasts one of the world's most destructive batting lineups, but will be without pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah, who has been laid low by a back injury. Meanwhile, Seema Mohammad Shami's impressive return to the action in the home series against England was a big relief for Rohit. India will kick off their campaign against Bangladesh on February 20th at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium, after which they will face arch rivals Pakistan on February 23rd. Smriti Mandhana and Royal Challengers Bengaluru effected a chillingly efficient demolition of Delhi Capitals by 8 wickets during their Women's Premier League in Vadodara on Monday. The defending champion thumped last year's runner-up by 8 wickets with a dominant opening wicket partnership and a combined bowling effort to complete the Baroda leg with 2 wins. Smriti and Danny Watt Hodge made easy work of the 142-run chase, adding 107 for the first wicket. The skipper played the role of the aggressor, taking on DC's bowling unit and muscling shots all over the ground. The 20,000 odd fans present witnessed an unforgettable innings by the Indian stalwart. From cricket onto Formula One now. Ahead of the new F1 season, Red Bull's Max Verstappen on Monday said that he can hope the team can improve on the last season when, where he struggled at times despite winning the Drivers' Championship. Last year, Verstappen won 9 times, less than half his record 2023 haul of 19, and what started predictably enough with 7 wins in the first 10 rounds became a thriller as he went 10 without success. The 27-year-old Dutchman said that he is hoping that the team can learn from their mistakes and improve this year. In tennis, Novak Djokovic and his Spanish partner Ferdinando Verdasco defeated Alexander Bublik and Karen Khachanov in the straight sets in the opening round of Qatar Open on Monday. Djokovic was playing his first match since retiring from last month's Australian Open semi-finals with a muscle injury. The 41-year-old Verdasco, who was set to retire at this week's Qatar Open along with Djokovic, won 6-1, 6-1 against the Kazakh-Russian pair in just 48 minutes. They will next face the second-seeded British-Finnish pair of Henry Patton and Harry Helovara. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us at Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.
Sikkim is not a destination, it's a journey. Into spirituality, into untouched nature. Into abundance. A lesson